mission of life. Get your daily balance as Kim Jacobs comes your way. We're here to open your eyes, making your day great and your life even better. Say, oh, daily balance. Get your daily balance. Daily balance. Get your daily balance with Kim.
Hello, welcome to Daily Balance. Thanks so much for being with us today. Today on Daily Balance, we're joined by some incredibly talented writers. I know you're going to enjoy meeting each and every one of them. Later in the program, Pat Schulz will be here. She's the author of the book, Making Sweet Lemonade, an intimate and powerful story of a young child's courage to rise above the pain and the circumstances of her life. It's truly an amazing story. But my first guests are two ladies who publish Above Ruby's e-magazine. Please welcome Carenda Lynch and Tarsha Jefferson. Hey, ladies. Glad to have you. Very glad to have you. And y'all, every time I see you all on the cover of your magazines and different things, y'all are like some spiffy ladies.
Thank you, but it's hard work.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
It don't look like it's too hard. Y'all look mighty beautiful all the time.
Thank you, Kim.
Cool. I'm so glad to have you all here on Daily Balance.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Very glad. Y'all are doing some great things. How did your e-magazine get started?
Well, the magazine has been launched just over a year now.
Okay.
And we do have a unique story about how we came together.
Oh, good.
And so Tasha can kind of tell you more about that.
You tell your version.
Yes. I have this demonstration that I always give when someone always asks us. Carenda had always had her own passion to encourage women, and I had a passion to encourage pastors' wives. So one day we were talking, and I used it as an orchestra. She had her composed music, and I had my composed music. And when the conductor raised his baton, we just made beautiful music together when our dreams came together. So our song was Above Ruby's Magazine. So
I
that's
love
how
the
it
title,
came.
Above Ruby's Magazine. That's incredible.
I love it.
And so now people can get Above Ruby's Magazine. It's an e-magazine.
It's an
So
e-magazine.
it's really great. It's even better.
Yeah, it's an e-magazine, and it was very strategic on how we went about doing that.
Okay.
When the magazine first launched, it was hard copied.
Yes.
And we then took a look at the convenience factor for the market that we are reaching. The women that we go after, they're women who wear many hats.
Yes.
They're wives, they're mothers, they are in corporate America, they are involved in church or community activities.
Yes.
So convenience is very important to them.
Very. I'm that woman that you're describing right now.
Exactly. So convenience is very important. So we wanted to look at that. And so now, it's as if you can have every issue with you all the time.
Yes.
And a lot of our women, they're technology savvy. They're on their Blackberries, their iPhones, etc. So it's not an issue.
You must have saw me backstage then.
Of course.
Trying to
Love it.
catch up
All
on
the time.
face, all kind of stuff.
If you have access to the internet, you have access to Above Ruby's. Yes.
That's so good. That's a high five moment.
Okay.
On my show. Oh, that's good.
Yes, it is.
Good.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to actually even start a magazine?
Well, I know for me personally, just the passion to write.
Okay.
Words are powerful,
Yes.
and it has a way of impacting people in major, major ways. And there are times that we don't even realize some of the things that we write, that it may affect someone months or years down the road.
That's right.
And it's a tangible source that you can put in someone's hands and leave a lasting impact. So that really inspires me in regards to writing. Also, just the fact that with women, personally, we know some things that we go through.
Yeah.
Internal things, internal issues that sometimes the people that see us from 9 to 5 don't see.
That's right.
So we wanted to really speak to that, speak to women in those areas.
Good.
Yeah.
And I love your tagline, real life, real women, real issues.
Yes.
Why that tagline?
Well, a lot of times we read different magazines, and sometimes you can read them and you're like, that's a fairy tale. That don't happen. That's not true.
Right.
But this magazine is so real. We deal with issues that every woman deal with, no matter how minor, no matter how major. We want to deal with whatever situation you're going through on a Monday, whatever you're going through on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Just wherever you are, we want to meet you and have a solution and a positive answer that's realistic.
Well, that goes hand in hand with the show Daily Balance because literally I believe it's just like, we're talking with real everyday people
Exactly.
and we're providing real balance tips and things for them. So if people are interested in becoming a writer or of any sort, I know you specialize in that as well as helping new publishers, or
Yes.
right? People that want to self-publish their own books.
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit, Carenda.
Well, I started a network called the Right to Freedom Network.
Yes.
With the belief that we all have a story to tell, and to really get people to understand that someone is waiting to read your story.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
it's powerful, and someone needs it.
Oh, good.
So I wanted to start a network that would really encourage men and women not to procrastinate. The time is now. You know,
It's so hard
Let's
not to
just
procrastinate.
do
I
it.
have about 50 books. When my assistant looked, she was
exactly.
like, "Hey, you have like 1,000 books here."
Exactly,
I know.
exactly. And self-publishing is a very interesting tweak, because you don't have someone really out in the front that's doing a lot of the work for you. You have to do the work yourself.
Right.
You sell the book yourself. You market the book yourself. You're the one that, you know, you're the voice for your book.
Right.
So it's really important for people to understand that, you know, you can't procrastinate. You've got to be motivated.
Yes.
You can set timelines. You can set guidelines. Have someone to hold you accountable. But let's get the book done.
Yeah, get it done.
Yeah, let's get it
And
done.
typically, what is the time frame you see in getting the book done?
You know what? You can do it within a year. You can. If you're focused, I always say if you can put an hour a day to your book, you can do it. You
Well,
can
I
do
actually
it.
have a coach that's helping me write my book. Her name is Phyllis Cunningham.
Okay.
And she's doing a great job of keeping me on track.
On
And she's like,
target.
you know, this
Staying
whole
on
thing
target.
of destiny mapping that she does
Exactly.
for authors, which is really good too.
Yeah.
So,
Accountability is
Yeah.
the key. It is.
Yes.
It is. It is.
Stay
Yeah.
on target.
Yeah.
and now what about some of the articles that you all really like to talk about
Okay. Well,
in your magazine?
it's interesting because 3 areas that we focus on is birthing purpose,
Okay.
bringing balance, and breaking bondage.
Oh, good.
Okay, so those are 3 specific areas that
Say it slow. You talk quick. So
I
let's
know
say it
I
one more
do.
time. One more time.
I'm from the city, Kim, so I'm sorry.
Say the breaking bondage.
Breaking bondage.
Okay.
Okay. Stopping those unhealthy cycles.
Okay. Breaking the unhealthy cycles.
Unhealthy cycles in your life, okay, emotionally, mentally, etc. Okay, birthing purpose. We as women understanding that we have purpose and destiny.
Good.
Okay, all right, and bringing balance. How to bring balance, okay,
Yes, I
in
noticed
your life.
that's in
yeah.
a trend in a lot of the articles.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Good.
several articles, and Tarsha can tell you some of those.
Well, one section we have is kick off those blue suede shoes.
Oh.
You know, we have a lot of women that are bitter, angry, depressed, just sour women. And this particular section is encouraging women to just be happy and embrace
Good.
who you are. And we have a section for a marriage corner. We understand a lot of marriages are not staying together as long
Right.
as they have in times past. So, and this is the only section that is male voiced in our magazine. So this
so you
is
do give them a small
yeah,
corner.
we have a male
little bit of-
perspective. You know, we do. This is the only
We love
section
the
where
male
it's a male
viewers.
perspective.
Okay.
And this one talks about communication skills.
Oh, good. So what males look for
Yes.
from women.
Yes.
Oh,
and
good.
then
That's
given
right.
their, you know, their outlook on how we may feel or what they think that we need.
Oh, good.
But I'm just giving great communication tips and understanding the importance of quality time
Okay.
and letting marriages know that it doesn't matter how long you've been together,
Right.
that you can keep the flame there, you can keep the fire there, and you can still be happy and in love 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road. It doesn't have to die.
Good.
Yeah, so just encouraging the ones that are happy and giving hope to the ones that may not be.
Some really inspirational
Yeah.
articles. Every article I've ever read was just really second to none.
Yeah.
The one about First Lady Michelle Obama was
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Highlighting that. And if I can add something, Kim.
Yes, please.
One of the things that we also focus on is allowing women to tell their testimony.
Yes, I
because a lot
noticed.
of times women sometimes feel, and this may just be in general, I must be the only one going through this.
Right.
Or I'm
Yeah.
by myself.
On an island by themselves.
Exactly.
That's not
And the
necessary.
isolation sets in.
Right.
So we really want women, real life, real women, real issues, to tell their testimony so they can too
Right.
encourage others to say, you know what, you're not by yourself.
That's
by
right.
yourself.
And this is how I made it through, and you can too.
That
Yeah.
positive solution.
Yeah, yeah.
Positive
And
solution.
every person that you've had featured in the articles, they do a great job of,
thank you.
painting that picture.
Painting that picture.
So
Yeah.
great job.
It's very
Great
important.
job.
Thank you.
Good.
I'm glad
Thank
to
you.
have you ladies here. And
Thank
up
you.
next on Daily Balance, the author of Making Sweet Lemonade. Stay with us. Yeah.
Daily Balance with Kim Jacobs is sponsored in part by 5 Links. 5 Links is committed to being in the forefront of the telecommunications industry and offers products and services throughout the United States and worldwide. Services include Global Links digital phone, cellular services, satellite TV, high-speed internet, Global Links Wi-Fi phones, and 5 Links home security. For more information, call 1-800-575-4021 or visit our website today.
Welcome back to Daily Balance. In our first segment, you met Carenda and Tarsha, who publish Above Rubies magazine. Carenda is also the author of Soul of a Poet. And if you would like to find out more information about Above Rubies magazine or The Soul of a Poet, you can definitely visit dailybalancewithkim.tv or aboverubiesmag.com. I have truly been fascinated by the riveting personal accounts that our next guest shares about her life. It's a story of hope, but also it's a story of healing. Please help me welcome the author of Making Sweet Lemonade, Pat Schulz. Hey, Pat.
Hey.
So glad to have you on the show.
I'm really glad to be here. I'm excited.
I read that book, Making Sweet Lemonade. Yeah. I thought it was going to be all flowery and sweet. I was like, oh no, this book changed my life. Why that title?
Whoa. But it represents the eternal optimism that one would have to persevere, to seek resilience, and seek the very best in life despite their circumstances.
Oh,
so
literally.
that's always been my goal, to reach my potential and to just acquire the very best in life despite any circumstances.
Oh, I'm so amazed just seeing you sitting here as this wonderful, powerful woman and where you've come from. Tell us about your childhood.
It was one that had a lot of change, instability.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a resilient child.
Good.
And very protected. And the thing about it is I think children are just amazing in that they can be taken in and out of so many different circumstances, but they adapt.
Right.
And children are more able to adapt than adults are. So the stories that you read within Making Sweet Lemonade, they were just everyday life for me. And that's what happens in children who are born into these types of circumstances. They become their norm.
Right.
And until you see something different, you don't realize that this isn't necessarily the norm.
That's right. I mean, this is. I mean, it blew my mind. I'm speechless because I read this book and like here in My Shawshank, this is a chapter where you're describing one just horrible part of your childhood. And I won't say the person's name, but you're talking about how the person had been drinking and then how he ended up, you said, and I thought he was going to pat me on the behind. That was something Mama would do a lot. But something different happened. He put his hands to a place where that Mom had never touched. When I began pulling back, he pressed me against him and put his mouth to mine and then tried to thrust his tongue into my mouth. And it goes on and on and on with more vivid thoughts. And even the description of how you tried to share with your mom as you walked up and down the block and she interrogated you about what had happened. And then it skips over because this is just an amazing part. You go to court because your mom did believe you. It sounded like she believed you. Is that accurate?
Yes.
But then you get to court, and I skipped through some pages, and on page 58 it says, "We were called into court. I was hoping the judge could see her fingerprint on my face and order me into safe custody." Whose fingerprint was this? Your mom's? From telling you to tell a lie.
After I questioned her, like, why? Why would you have me say no when we've gone this far? Because I thought that she was, of course, loved me and she was my advocate.
Right.
So why did we even go to the police station if we weren't going to carry this through?
Right. I felt so good in the beginning when I was reading the book that your mom took you out immediately. She was walking up and down the highway with you and you were talking and she believed you. You went to the police. I was like, yes, finally a mother that understands that it wasn't your fault. But then I get here and read this and I'm like, your mom say that she made it all up. When asked to confirm, the consequences raced through your head. And then you ended up agreeing.
Yeah, because
they made it all up.
Either way, I was sunk, so to speak. You know, if I didn't agree with her, then I had to face some consequences with my mother for being disobedient or non-compliant. And if I agreed, if I didn't agree, then the judge most likely would have taken me out and I would have ended up in foster care. And children will protect their very home life, despite whatever it's like, to avoid being placed in foster care.
Wow. So technically you were placed in a lifelong prison because you were sentenced to living with your child molester.
Well, it was like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
In the story, I describe how we took the bus home and how I just basically ignored them. I looked at them as both cowards.
Right.
And I thought, at that point, I felt like I was placed into prison to have to go back home with my, as I say, personal assailant. But my mother had made some type of agreement with him that, look, I spared you from 20 years in prison, but you have to go.
Right.
And so he left, but it was 2 weeks later. And for me, that 2 weeks was my Shawshank. That's why I titled that chapter My Shawshank. I absolutely loved the movie and this gentleman who was in prison for X amount of years, even though he was in a place and his, there's a caption in there at the end says that we will not allow our minds to be chained.
Yes, it says, even though we have been limited in space, place, and freedom for a time, we will not allow our minds and spirit to be chained.
Yes, exactly. So I would not allow that to take away my spirit.
Well, it seems like a lot of the chapters in the book were defining moments. What was like one of the most defining moments of the book to you?
The most difficult chapter, I could say defining moment in writing the story itself was February 26th, the date that my mother died.
Yeah.
That was the most difficult chapter.
Look how many pages I have folded. I'm like, my God, this is a roller coaster ride.
Definitely. That was a difficult. I was on vacation in Florida. I have a spot I go to the first week of May every year, and I take all the books I haven't finished, and it's my Club Med vacation. And that was a time when I was anticipating writing this story, but the title nor the full concept had come to me yet. But I knew that if I were to ever write my story, that was the significant chapter that had to be told.
Okay.
And I started at 9 o'clock at night, and it took me all the way until 4 in the morning to write that one chapter, and I purged. And that particular event had been repressed within me from age 11 when it happened, up until this time as an adult.
And you talk about when this happened, your mom and you were walking on the ice, and I'll read a piece of that.
In Brooklyn, New York.
In Brooklyn, New York. You said, as we walked slowly that quarter mile, Mama seemed quite tentative in her steps. We walked arm in arm to support one another from slipping on the ice, but you seemed to hold on closer and tighter to keep her secure. Wow. And after that time, she slipped on the ice. I was so afraid that she had gotten hurt. And she did, obviously, My goodness.
Well, at the time, I didn't realize my mother was dying.
Right. I know you talk about an odor that you had smelled, too, in the book.
Yeah. And then later the next day, she died. And then it all came to me that what I smelled was death.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so, so, so sorry to hear that. But you know what? The more you talk about your book in here, this was your history.
Yes.
What made you write it all down like this? Because it was so much.
For the glory of God and for the benefit of others' healing.
And people will heal. When they read this book, they will heal. And we're going to come right back because we have a lot more to share with you about Pat Schulz right after this break. Oh, there is going to be healing for sure.
Daily Balance with Kim Jacobs is sponsored in part by the Rock Worship Center, Church of God in Christ, located at 1113 Fordham Road, Charlotte, North Carolina. The Rock Worship Center, making disciples through evangelism, exaltation, and edification. For more information, call 704-358-4167 or visit our website at rockworshipcenter.org.
I'm talking today with Pat Schulz, the author of Making Sweet Lemonade. Pat, thanks so much for being with us today. I really have enjoyed talking to you. I mean, your story has been interesting for me because it is filled with a lot of trauma, but then there's a lot of victory as well.
Absolutely.
But what about people that have not had trauma like that in their lives? How can they relate to your book?
people tell me they relate in that it encourages advocacy.
Yeah.
I've had an individual walk me across the room in a women's conference and say, you know, I didn't experience any of the things that you've experienced, but it made me so grateful for the wonderful life I've had, you know, for the blessings I've had, to have my family intact. And so she said, I'll never complain about traffic again, you know, I'll never complain about this and all the trivialities of life. But there's a higher mission with the story, which is to create advocates, to find a cause and go out and help someone else who may need that assistance.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Making Sweet Lemonade, it is by far, I can only share my personal opinion. This is by far one of the best books I've ever in my life read, because it kept me holding on to the bitter end to figure out what was going to happen. And then it was a crazy turn and twist, all types of turns and twists in this book. And one of the things was a letter. I definitely want you to talk about the missing persons letter.
Okay.
What happened when that happened?
Well, look, before we get to the missing persons letter, you know, after my mother passed and I moved down south, so the story is set in Brooklyn, New York.
Yes.
This is where we were, and her family lived in North Carolina. So I moved here and adapted to living with my mother's family and then later extended family members. And side note, for that reason, I advocate for children who are in foster. Even though I was never officially a foster child, for all practical purposes, I experienced the same types of adjustments that they go through. And so there were adjustments there, but the scholarship came and I was able to receive full scholarship and or grant money.
I'm so happy in that moment that in the book. High five.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the pay it forward chapter, our commitment to scholarship. And then I was able to put that to work and go out and create a life. And that was my whole goal all along, that despite anything that's happened up to this point, when I become 18, I can make my own decisions. I can go out and create the life that I choose to have.
And you were changing it. Your life was transforming.
At the height of my career, a manager in a Fortune 500 company, on